After Lewis Hamilton's dramatic triumph last year, expectations were high. The 2009 Formula One World Championship promised to be one of the most unpredictable yet. The biggest shake-up of the Formula One regulations in recent years added an extra dimension to the spectacle. Adapting to the challenge of the in-season testing ban and limited winter mileage would be crucial.
The major changes to the aerodynamic rules for 2009, I think the most prominent part will be the front wing, which is much wider, not permitted to have very strong effect in the middle, so we compensate by it being quite brutal and aggressive towards the outside. And the rear wing, which is very much narrower and it's higher. And on the bodywork of the cars, the areas in which we were able to put aerodynamic devices have been removed from us, so mostly the bodywork looks a lot cleaner. The change in engine regulations starts with a drop of 1,000 RPM from a 19,000 RPM limit to an 18,000 RPM peak. And we're also limited to use of 8 engines for the season, and we have to manage the way we use the engines so that we don't end up with very high mileage engines in races which are very hard on the engine, like Monza, the high-speed tracks, and Spa. So we can put an engine in for the first race and then take it out and use a different engine for the second race, and then maybe put the engine for the first race back in for the fourth race and things like that. The move to slick tyres for 2009 really comes from the principal basis of what was called the OWG, the Overtaking Working Group, which was to come up with some car rules which would enhance overtaking. And the idea principally was to cut the aerodynamic downforce in half, and which would slow the cars down a lot in the medium and high-speed corners, but return some what would be called mechanical grip to the cars at low speed, although it'll work all the way through the range, by going back from the groove tyres to slick tyres, which we last ran in 1997. And that'll be interesting, and it is true to say that many of the race engineers up and down the pit lane will not have had the experience of running with slick tyres, so that'll be something they'll have to learn, and maybe some of the old lags like myself will be able to tell them the way it was in the old days. The introduction of what's called KERS, kinetic energy recovery systems, in Formula One is certainly a completely new departure, which will mean developing new technologies to package the 60 kilowatt motors. 60 kilowatts is about 80 horsepower, just over 80 horsepower, which is the power output of a road-going 1.2 litre road car, and yet the motor is about the size of a half-used lavatory paper roll, if I may refer to it as that, to give an idea of the size. And then that energy that's been stored under braking can be discharged from the batteries through what was the generator, is now working as a motor. That's why it's called a motor generator unit, and it's adding into the powertrain the 80 horsepower that was being taken out under braking, and we're allowed to put back into the system 400 kilojoules per lap. That's about 80 horsepower for about 7 seconds. Most of the cars carry about 50-60 kilograms of ballast normally, and that ballast is carried pretty far forward in order to get the weight distribution that we need. If we run the KERS system, occupying about 30 kilograms of that ballast, but that's around the middle of the car, that's taking 30 kilograms away from us that we would like to position further forward on the car. So it's very difficult to run as far forward a weight distribution with KERS as you can without running KERS. And at the low-speed tracks, Monaco, maybe Budapest, it won't be so much of a disadvantage running Kerrs. But at the high-speed tracks, it'll be a fine balance between the 0.3 of a second or so per lap that the Kerrs will give you and the disadvantage of not being able to run such a forward weight distribution. We're not allowed to use the system under 100 kilometers per hour, but we reach 100 kilometers an hour in less than 2.5 seconds from the start, and then the driver can press his Kerrs button and get that extra boost of the extra 80 horsepower. So it's going to mix things up a bit between the start and the first corner, quite a lot at some tracks.
With the first 4 events outside Europe, whoever adapted to the radical rule changes quickest would set the pace for the title. After a long, cold winter, the Australian sunshine provided a warm welcome when Formula One regrouped in Melbourne. And with the tension rising as fast as the temperature, the drivers had to keep their cool. But what was getting the paddock insiders hot and bothered for 2009?
I want to see a really good close race. Let's see if there's going to be some more overtaking. And I'd actually quite like to see Brawn win.
Or a big shake-up of, well, not standard Ferraris, McLarens and BMWs, but there's a bit of everything. That's what we're looking forward most.
Ferrari! Easy answer, to be on the front. That is the reason why we are here. The most difficult answer is how we can get it. Honestly, I don't have any answer now.
It's an exciting time always to be in Australia at the start of the year. It's a challenging one for us in particular. I think we haven't got a car that's developed enough and as competitive as we'd want.
Who's that up front? Where? McLaren where? It's fantastic, it really is. So the interest was massive after Brazil, and I just hope that with all the changes and with the old order seemingly thrown away, that people are going to get even more excited and it's going to carry on throughout the season.
A short while ago I didn't think we was ever going to make it, and to actually be here with a car that's competitive and fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be very different, and that's the main thing. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I think that's what I'm looking forward to. I really haven't got a clue what to expect this afternoon, on Sunday, or for the rest of the year.
The cars looked very different to previous years, with larger, adjustable front wings. It appeared that each team had taken a completely different approach, but the big question was, who had got it right? The back of the car was also radically altered, but it wasn't the narrower rear wing that created the stir. Brawn, Williams and Toyota exploited a loophole in the regulations and developed a double-decker diffuser. Its main aim was to increase downforce. The FIA considered the arguments from both camps and eventually declared the cars legal. The remaining teams who hadn't developed the concept were far from happy. The debate would not be settled overnight. Ferrari didn't start their campaign in the way they'd hoped. A hydraulic problem cut short Kimi's running on Saturday morning.
Okay, stop and switch off. Stop and switch off. No downshift. No downshift.
The reigning champion didn't kick off the defence of his title in the way he had hoped. A sudden loss of drive in qualifying left him coasting back to the pits, and although he made it into Q2, he couldn't participate. A new gearbox put him 5 places back on the grid. Kubica ditched his Kerrs and was surprised with P4, but teammate Heidfeld ran with Kerrs and was disappointed to miss out on Q3 by a small margin. The front of the field saw a changing of the old guard, with Button, Barrichello and Vettel at the top of the timing pages. Just weeks ago, their careers were in turmoil, and now Brawn GP headed up the front row.
It's especially special for us because we've had such a torrid winter. You know, every day it's been up and down. You know, one day it looks positive and we're going to be racing this year, and the next day it's not. So to finally arrive here with a car that we knew was competitive was a great feeling. But also to put it on pole now, you know, I'm sure the whole team have been very emotional. And so this isn't the end of it. You know, tomorrow is the race, but we've got to enjoy this today because this is a good start.
But it wasn't a good start for everyone. Both Toyotas were excluded from qualifying after their rear wings were found to demonstrate extreme flexibility. Aussie favourite Mark Webber was disappointed with 8th, but it was a remarkable achievement considering his off-season cycling accident. When the fuel loads were published, it was clear the Brawns were going to be quick. In one of the most eagerly anticipated seasons, finally F1 2009 was ready for the off. Months of hard work were about to be put to the ultimate test. Both Toyotas opted to start from the pit lane following their penalties. Button was clean away, but his teammate almost stalled. Vettel went defensive, and a Kurz boost got the Ferraris in the mix. Webber wanted to do well on home turf. But a whack from Barrichello sent him into Heidfeld and Kovalainen and got him in a right mess. Button led from Vettel, Rosberg, Massa, Kubica and Raikkonen. He was already putting some air between himself and the rest of the field, while Rosberg kept losing places. Heidfeld, Sutil and Webber all stopped for repairs at the end of the first lap. Hamilton had stormed through the carnage and relieved Buemi of 10th. Nevertheless, this was not what Ron Dennis and McLaren were used to. Next up, Lewis put a move on Piquet for 9th. Massa was 3rd ahead of Kubica, while Rosberg put a move on Raikkonen for 5th. And former Ferrari driver Barrichello was looking handy as well. But Rubens got himself into trouble. He'd already suffered in the first lap incident, now he'd taken another hit. The pit stops were underway, so Nakajima was up to 3rd. But it didn't last long. He ran wide, hit the curb and lost the rear. And that brought out the safety car. Button timed his stop to perfection. The safety car came out just after he rejoined in the lead. Unlike last year, when the safety car is required, drivers can dive into the pits as soon as they want. For 2009, the pit exit light would remain green until the safety car and the line of cars behind it were passing down the pit straight. Fisichella was so used to being at the end of the pit lane, he overshot his box. He got going eventually, and so did the race. Piquet fancied his chances with Rosberg's 6th place, but brake problems put paid to that. Rosberg struggled to get heat into his tyres. Trulli was already through, now he was easy prey for Barrichello and indeed new boy Buemi. It wasn't what the team wanted to see. Hamilton had charged through the field. He had no trouble seizing 10th place from Glock. Lewis looked a bit wild, but it didn't stop Alonso getting the measure of Timo's Toyota as well. They might have started from the pit lane, but the team still had points high on their agenda. Glock set about catching the Renault.
You need to try to get rid of it. Put him under pressure. Maybe he does a mistake. Put him under pressure.
But he pushed too hard and found himself with it all to do once again. And some more. But whilst the man at the front couldn't believe his reversal of fortunes, a former champion couldn't believe it could all go so wrong. 4 months had passed since Ferrari just missed out on the championship. It was a complete turnaround. A change in strategy hadn't helped Massa's tyre woes. Finally, a broken left upright forced him to retire. It was Glock and Alonso round 3. Timo would not give up, and Fernando held him off as long as he could. "53 laps in, and Barrichello's exciting race continued. He eased past Rosberg for 4th. Trulli had turned around his misfortune and relegated Nico to 6th. It was a relentless attack on the Williams. Next up, it was the feisty Hamilton, who demoted him to 7th. The hottest battle on track was between Vettel and Kubica, and it was about to reach boiling point. Both cars did their best to keep going, but they didn't last long. Neither driver was injured, but pride was definitely hurt. Kubica was fast on the harder tyres, while Vettel struggled on the softer ones. He tried to defend, but had no grip to avoid a collision. BMW Sauber felt a podium at least had been in sight. Vettel tried to keep going, but it was not to be. However, his endeavours were not approved by the stewards, who handed the team a fine. With debris all over the track, the safety car was out once again. And with only 3 laps to go, it was Button from Barrichello, with Webber a lap down in between them on track. As the sun began to set, Ferrari had plenty of time to reflect. Third place Trulli made a mistake following the safety car. When he rejoined, Hamilton had passed him. How would McLaren react? Lewis slowed and was overtaken by Jarno. The safety car went in and left Button to lead the cars round to the checkered flag. It wasn't his first win, but it felt like it. He took the victory from pole and led every single lap. A month ago, they didn't know if they would be on the grid. Who could have predicted that? The Virgin partnership was only in its 2nd day, but Richard Branson was delighted with the result. Just 3 weeks since the team's track debut, they had completely turned things around. It was the ultimate high following a roller coaster few months.
I was thinking, wow, this feels good up here, and I get a free bottle of champagne as well. It was a great moment, especially with Ruben stood next to me, and Ross Brawn also, who I must say was speechless, and it's the first time I've seen the big man speechless. So it was emotional for us, and it was great to see so many fans and being very supportive of us. You know, I think that people understand what we've been through the last few months, and I think we've got a lot of support out there. It was sort of the people's team, I think, hopefully.
After investigation, Trulli was handed a penalty for overtaking under yellow flags, so Hamilton finished third. Webber finished 13th, and both Toro Rossos made it into the points.
We don't really have the car to win at the moment, and by the grace of God I managed to bring the car home. I was in fourth, and I was overtaken under yellow flags by Trulli, so I gained my position back and was third. So podium finish in our first race with what we have was way more than we expected.
Hamilton was promoted to third post-race in Australia, but as McLaren prepared as normal for the Malaysian Grand Prix, it transpired that there was more to the Trulli-Hamilton incident than previously thought. The FIA discovered an interview that Lewis had given straight after the race, and it seemed to contradict what he had told the stewards.
I was behind Trulli under the safety car, and clearly you're not allowed to overtake under the safety car, but he went off in the second to last corner. He went wide on the grass. I guess his tyres were cold, and I was forced to go by. I mean, I slowed down as much as I could. I was told to let him back pass, but I mean, I don't know if that's with the regulations, and if it isn't, then I should have really had third. But
the evidence was looked at again in Malaysia, and both drivers were summoned to the stewards. The evidence from the pit-to-car radio was central to the debate. In Australia, McLaren claimed that there had been no discussion on the radio about the incident with Trulli. And as Dave Ryan and Lewis went their separate ways on Thursday, the radio transmissions spoke for themselves.
After the safety car line, the delta doesn't matter, but no overtaking, no overtaking.
The Toyota went off in the second to last corner. I overtook him. Is that okay?
Understood, Lewis. We'll confirm and get back to you.
He was off the track. He went wide.
Jarno, when did Hamilton overtake you?
When I went out, I was joining the party and he overtook me.
So was it before the safety car or after the safety car?
Both, I don't know, it's difficult to say.
Okay, and was it in the area of the yellow flag?
Yeah, there were yellow flags, yes.
Okay, Hamilton overtook a yellow flag. So Jarno, you don't do any maneuver, you stay where you are, we are on the case with Hamilton.
Lewis, you need to allow the Toyota through now.
Okay. Slowed right down in front of me.
Okay, Lewis, stay ahead for the time being. Stay ahead. We'll get back to you. We're talking to Charlie.
I've let him pass already.
Okay, Lewis, that's fine. That's fine. Hold position. Hold position.
Oh, Charlie, because I already overtook him and I just let him pass, so...
Yeah, we understand, Lewis. Let's just do it by the book. We're asking Charlie now. You're in P4 if you hold this position. Just keep it together.
Jarno, did Hamilton let you pass or what happened? Because you are in front of him now.
Slowed down a lot. And I thought he gave me the position. So what I did, I overtook him and then I slowed down again just to let him by again. And he didn't. So I don't know exactly what happened there.
Okay, your explanation is clear. So basically Hamilton let you pass, you slowed down to make him understand that he could pass again, but he didn't pass again. Okay, this is clear.
Very clear like that. I passed by next to him and then I slowed down again and he didn't overtake me back.
Okay, Jarno, this is very clear. You are P3. Just close the lap. The safety car will come in, but nobody can overtake you, of course. So just close the lap.
As a result of the information, Lewis was excluded from the Australian Grand Prix, and the team faced a meeting with the FIA Motorsport Council at the end of the month. Lewis felt obliged to both explain and apologise for his actions.
We were requested by the stewards, and whilst waiting for the stewards, I was instructed
and misled by my team manager to withhold information, and that's what I did. And sincerely apologise to the stewards for wasting their time and for making them look silly. But just really, I'm very, very sorry for the situation, for my team, for Dave, because he's been a good member of the team for many years. And whilst that I don't think it was his intention, or he's a good guy. And I went into the meeting. I had no intention of, I just wanted to tell the story, to say what happened, and I was misled, and it was that's the way it went. And I would like to say a big sorry to all my fans who have believed in me, who have supported me for years, who I've showed you I am for the past 3 years. It's who I am. I'm not a liar. I'm not a dishonest person. I'm a team player, and every time I've been informed to do something, I've done it. And this time I realized that it was a huge mistake, and I'm learning from it. It's taken a huge toll on me. I apologize for you guys. I didn't speak to you guys yesterday, but I mean, it was a lot to take in and a lot to deal with. And so I'm here to apologize to everyone, and just assure you it wouldn't happen again.
An integral part of McLaren for over 30 years, Dave Ryan was a notable absentee on Friday in Sepang, and Martin Whitmarsh explained why.
It's become clear from discussions with Dave last night and through into this morning that during the stewards' meeting after the Australian Grand Prix, he was not entirely full and truthful in the answers that he gave to the stewards, and consequently we had no alternative today other than to suspend him. As you can imagine, I think it's a very sad day for the team. We've got to deal with this weekend. We've got to look at, in a bit more detail, all of the events that surrounded that. From my perspective, obviously it's a point of deep regret. It's not how I wanted this year in particular to start. It's something for which the team and myself are not only deeply embarrassed but deeply regretful. And I think for Davey, it's been a shattering day for him.
It went from bad to worse for McLaren, but things seem to get better and better for Brawn, with another pole position for Button. Trulli set P2 in the closing seconds. Barrichello's battle was hindered by a 5-place penalty following his gearbox change on Friday, while Vettel received a 10-place penalty for causing the collision with Kubica in Australia. Their misfortune put 2 Toyotas in the top 3, but Hamilton, Kovalainen and Massa had their work cut out. There were just seconds to go before the 5 o'clock race start. But Kubica and Glock got left behind, while a lack of grip hindered Button's onslaught. Alonso flew up to P3, and a flawless start from Rosberg launched him into the lead at the first corner. Raikkonen was 5th, but Jensen's grip was not getting any better in front. Button set about challenging Alonso, while teammate Barrichello managed to get his foot down and put Kimi in his place. Massa hounded Kovalainen. Heikki started 14th, but he didn't even make it around the first lap. Again. Kubica didn't get much further. He had struggled to get away at the start and retired on the second lap, thanks to an engine problem. Alonso was under huge pressure from Button. He could do nothing to halt his attack. Next up, it was Barrichello. Fernando fought hard, but his Kerr's advantage off the grid couldn't sustain a prolonged offensive, and he lost fifth to Raikkonen. Alonso's cracking start was too good to be true. Webber soon had the measure of him and secured sixth. Or did he? The long pit straight gave Fernando a chance to use the slipstream. But when he went wide, Webber swept past. Schumacher's skills in the wet were undeniable, but he wasn't so confident about his forecasting abilities. There was no rain yet, but Ferrari tried to preempt the weather and sent Raikkonen out on full wet tyres, even though the track was dry. He'd been running quite well, so it was a huge gamble. The sky got darker, but the deluge of rain was yet to come. When Button came in on lap 19, he had no option but to go for dry tyres. He'd used his strategy to the max. 2 blisteringly quick laps when Rosberg and Trulli had pitted ensured he emerged at the front of the pack. Vettel was keen to overcome his penalty, and Raikkonen ahead was really struggling with his full wet tyres. Sebastian easily took advantage on the slicks. But the weather had begun to change. Rain had started to fall. It wasn't the usual afternoon downpour that everyone was used to, but track conditions had deteriorated, whilst in the pit lane it was only drizzling. Massa struggled on dry tyres. And his teammate fared no better. Raikkonen was on the full wet, but he had been on them far too long, and they were well past their best. He'd fallen to near the back of the field.
So where is the rain? We're gonna destroy the tires.
2 minutes, 2 minutes.
Lap 22 and the pit lane got very busy. Button returned for full wet, but the conditions were incredibly hard to read. Heidfeld's one-stop strategy helped him climb up to 5th after the stops. The pit lane was the only place to be, but still the conditions varied. The reigning world champion held on and eventually got the better of Mark Webber. But it was short-lived. Webber soon had the measure of the McLaren and then went on and took 5th from Heidfeld. Hamilton lost out to Glock. Then the Toyota made light work of Nick Heidfeld to move up to P6. His intermediate tyres were working a treat in the difficult conditions. The decision to put Timo on inters looked to be paying off. His teammate was on the full wet, but the track still wasn't wet enough. Barrichello struggled. He went wide and allowed Webber and Glock through. Timo was much faster on the inters and soon relieved Webber of 2nd as the front runners pitted for inters. The Red Bull cautiously retaliated. But the Toyota was off into the distance. Barrichello and Trulli were in. The rain had cleared from the pit lane. Intermediates were still the way to go. Jarno got the better of Rubens. But when Barrichello got to grips with his tyres, he made light work of Trulli. Glock's shrewd strategy had him leading the race, but Jenson Button had designs on first place. As Button overtook on inters, Timo headed into the pits for wets. Had Button got it wrong? The rain was now torrential. Fisichella was caught out, as was Vettel.
Okay, Sebastian, hang in there. It's raining hard now. And the car goes off! Same shit! Car is off, race is over!
The Toro Rosso of Boemi was next. Button kept his inters on track long enough to get back to the pits for the full wets. And he still rejoined P1 ahead of Heidfeld and Glock. Or should that be Glock and Heidfeld? Trulli and Barrichello were next to make the change. That was the last bit of racing action. Conditions had deteriorated enough for the safety car. Light was fading fast, just like Hamilton's level of grip.
This is undrivable. There's puddles aquaplaning everywhere. It's unbelievable.
A clever strategy meant Heidfeld only stopped once, but it didn't stop him from being caught out.
I cannot drive. White flag, please.
The track was beginning to resemble a swimming pool. Just staying afloat was a challenge.
Red flag, red flag.
The teams prepared for a long wait on the grid. There would be much confusion and delay if there was to be a restart, but things did not improve.
I need a white visor, please, come on, white visor. Otherwise I cannot see anything.
Felipe, baby, stay cool. We're bringing you the white visor. Stay cool. We're in a good position. Okay? We're bringing you the visor.
It wasn't just about the rain. The rapidly decreasing light in Sepang could present huge problems. What would happen? Preparations continued for a restart, but not everyone was convinced. A problem with the isolation of the Kers had made the decision for Kimi, to the amusement of Timo. They were running out of daylight. Moments later, Jenson Button was declared the winner and half points were awarded. When the red flag was shown, race leader Button was on lap 33. The race result was taken from this point 2 laps earlier, and it meant the difference between second and third for Timo Glock. It was a fantastic team effort. Toyota's second consecutive podium was a welcome result, but Glock was so nearly P2. Rosberg had to be disappointed by 8th after leading the race. Things went Heidfeld's way from 10th to 2nd. Glock got his second career podium just ahead of his teammate, who was 4th.
That was really good, I have to say. You know, my engineer was shouting every time, man, you're the quickest, stay out, stay out. And I couldn't believe that, I think I was still on slicks and I saw Felipe Massa already on heavyweights and I said, Kimi, that's quite an early change. And, you know, what I said before, it took so long, the clouds, you could see it, and they took so long until they came up, and it took so long until it started raining. Then we were close to the pit stop, so I said, you know, we go for it, go for inters. And, you know, it was the right decision. And at the end, you know, I saved the tires at the beginning a bit, and then I saw everybody really struggling, and then I thought, okay, this is the time to push, go for it, and it was good fun.
It was an unusual race and an unusual result. Button racked up another win, but as less than 75% of the race was completed, he only got 5 points for his efforts. Heidfeld and Hamilton got their first of the year. Brawn and Toyota topped the standings. Red Bull and McLaren had got off the blocks, but Force India and Ferrari were still yet to score. Making the right decisions at the right time was crucial in Malaysia.
You know, it comes from a group of people. Shove, Bono, James Vowles, our strategy guy, and obviously Ross. So it's a difficult call, but, you know, we actually thought those were the safest calls to make. I kept coming on the radio saying, are you sure, are you sure, are you sure? It's not raining that hard, are you sure we want the X-Wet? And they're like, in. So we did, and it was the safest option for sure. Looking at what the weather we normally get here, you know, it's normally bucketing. I can't say bucketing, actually. Bucketing. I can't say that word for some reason today. It's the excitement, the adrenaline. So it normally does that, but it didn't. So we, you know, you'd say we made the wrong call, but it was the safe call at the time, and it worked for us. So.
Before the Chinese Grand Prix, a decision was made on the double diffuser row. The FIA concluded that the stewards were correct to find that Brawn, Toyota and Williams complied with the regulations, but it was a blow to the others.
I think it was obviously frustrating because I think, you know, the regulations were interpreted differently from two parties, and in the end we went to the Court of Appeal to achieve clarity. Obviously we believe that certainly the intention of the regulations and the spirit and the work that had been done in the overtaking working group was very, very clear. But we had a fair hearing with you know, the Court of Appeal, and we accept their decision. So the consequences, obviously, a lot of hard work, money and an effort to now integrate a diffuser onto our car.
It definitely is a disadvantage because the season carries on, and it will take some races at least to catch up.
I like a lot the decision.
Double diffusers were not the only talking point in Shanghai. The fallout from Australia continued for McLaren.
Yeah, Formule is going to concentrate on that. There's a lot of challenges.
Ron Dennis handed his responsibility as Chief Executive Officer of McLaren Racing to team principal Martin Whitmarsh. Ron had been a pioneering force within motorsport for over 40 years. Since 1980, McLaren have won 7 constructors and 10 drivers' titles. He's been associated with some of the all-time greats, such as Lauda, Prost, Senna, Berger, Hakkinen, and most recently was credited with the discovery of Lewis Hamilton. The team's long-term nemesis, Ferrari, was also in turmoil. They opted to remove curves from their cars following the reliability issues they suffered in Malaysia.
We will not use curves for this weekend. We will know that it's a decision that we have taken because we need to understand exactly on the safety point of view and reliability point of view the system. At this moment we need to be basic, I would say. We need to bring home all what we can in this condition and wait for the development of the new car that is coming, and then we will see. But this stage is very important to be really basic on everything.
Red Bull got back to basics in qualifying with a cracking lap from Sebastian Vettel, although Alonso looked to be a real threat in Shanghai. But it wasn't to be. Despite limited running thanks to problems with his drive shaft, Vettel managed to secure Red Bull's first ever pole position. Alonso lined up next and hoped that his aggressive strategy could catch him and restrain Mark Webber behind. So it was a second career pole for Vettel. Barrichello and Button were 4th and 5th. Buemi got the measure of his teammate and made it into the top 10. Piquet and Kubica were left frustrated, and a new gearbox cost Glock 5 places. After dry running all weekend, Sunday dawned to cloud and rain. There was only one prediction for the race. A safety car start was the only option. The lights went to green and they were off, except for Glock, who opted to start from the pit lane on a full tank of fuel. Conditions were treacherous.
A lot of water. A hell of a lot of water.
I think a rolling start is more dangerous than a standing start, that's for sure.
Understood, Lewis. I take it that means the spray is very bad out there. Confirm.
After only 7 laps, Alonso was in. The team expected the safety car to stay out for much longer. It didn't, and that left Fernando right at the back with it all to do. Hamilton was all fired up after the restart and demonstrated his fearsome wet weather skills. He started 9th, but quickly seized 6th from Raikkonen. Ferrari's luck wasn't about to change just yet, but it looked like Lewis's had. There was lots of standing water, and he lost the ground he had worked hard to gain. And was lucky not to get hit. The track still resembled a lake, but Jensen managed to take advantage when his teammate ahead got caught out. With 2 wins under his belt, Glock didn't waste time making his way through the field. He disposed of Nakajima to move up to 13th. That impressed Toyota. Timo was lucky to continue after this tangle with Heidfeld. But their teammates were not so fortunate. Kubica caught his team out.
Why are you in the pit? Close.
When Trilly braked into the corner, Kubica hit some standing water and through the spray and was lucky not to take him out of the race. And it wasn't working out for Massa. A podium finish was in sight until a software management problem cut out his engine and forced him to retire. Behind the safety car, it was Vettel ahead of Button, Webber, Raikkonen, Hamilton, then Barrichello, Kovalainen and Bourdais. Until the Frenchman got himself in a spin. The track was now clear, but the conditions were still horrendous. That didn't stop Hamilton's surge. He took 4th from Raikkonen. Piquet needed a good result to answer his critics. That wasn't the answer he wanted them to hear. Button was second, but he ran straight on and handed the place to Webber. Alan Webber had no problem with that. A Red Bull Racing 1-2 was a serious possibility, or was it? Now Button was back in P2. It was agonising for the teams. But Webber didn't give up. And he quickly made amends. Was tantalisingly close. After Mark's stop, Jensen led. But Vettel had the bit between his teeth. He wanted this win and overtook Button, who had yet to even make his final stop. There was no room for error in those conditions, as Rosberg found out to his peril. Even wet weather wonder Hamilton got caught out. Again. Sutil was there to pick up the spoils and 6th place. He had pitted during the safety car and filled up his tanks, but his tyres were badly worn. And he couldn't stop himself aquaplaning into retirement. He still hadn't improved on that running technique since Montreal last year. Red Bull were just minutes from their debut victory. All Sebastian had to do was keep... Their car was incredible in wet conditions, and all without Kurz or the double diffuser. It was nice weather for ducks, and indeed, bulls. When the checker flag fell, the Red Bulls were over 30 seconds ahead of their nearest rivals.
Great job, Sebastian. Proud of you. Great job.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for working so hard fixing the car. It was a dream to drive today. I had so much fun. It was so difficult, but together we made it. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much.
What shall I say? I mean, I'm extremely happy. Second time now in the wet. I've won a Grand Prix, so I mean, now we can probably have some more rain. But no, the car was fantastic. I think it's definitely necessary to mention that the team did a really, really good job in preparing the car. A double win for Red Bull is incredible. I mean, I'm extremely happy.
They made their debut in Australia 2005, and finally they got the result they'd worked so hard to achieve. But it wasn't all about Vettel. Mark Webber had overcome his injury and come back fighting. He took Toro Rosso's first win, so it was just a matter of time before he secured one for Red Bull too. Kate's sturdy sister certainly did the business, and the victory tasted sweet. '" 2009 had seen many surprises and changes in F1. Last year's championship contenders struggled, while those at the back came to the forefront. And in the desert heat, Toyota took their turn at the top. The team celebrated their best ever qualifying. Vettel and Button were next up, behind the Toyotas. Hamilton was pleased with 5th. Both Ferraris made it into the top 10. Kubica and Heidfeld struggled once again, and Sutil got a penalty for impeding Webber. Luca de Montezemolo didn't count on seeing his red cars quite so far back. It was the red and white Toyotas that had the best seats in the house. Trulli got too much wheel spin off the start and lost the lead to Glock. Hamilton shot down the inside of Vettel while Button waited on the outside. Massa found himself squeezed between Barrichello and Raikkonen. And that left him needing to stop for repairs. They weren't the only ones who got into trouble. There was contact at the back of the field. Hamilton made a good start to jump from 5th to 3rd. He soon set about hunting down the Toyotas with a little help from his Kurz. He rocketed past Trulli, but Jarno wasn't going to be sidelined. The Toyotas were no longer the threat. It was the brawn of Button who was on the prowl for 3rd place. Jensen had to make the move early before Hamilton deployed his Kurz. He could not afford to be stuck behind the McLaren for long. Lap 11 and race leader Glock made an early stop. He took on the harder tyres and a lot of fuel. Toyota didn't wait long to see if there was an advantage. 1 lap later, Trulli also switched to the harder tyre. New race leader Button was pulling clear of Vettel, who was stuck behind Hamilton. Trulli rejoined 6th after his early stop, but he soon found himself under attack from his one-time. On the heavy fuel load, Glock also struggled for grip. The only option would be to bring forward his second stop.
I am losing everything. The bloody tires are not working, not at all.
Timo, stay cool, stay cool.
Stay cool, we still racing, stay cool. Everybody will have to run the track time. Stay cool. We're looking at it.
A 1-2 finish had slipped from their grasp. To make the strategy work. Finally, Rubens got ahead. Ferrari's boss kept an eye on proceedings as his team looked to turn around their terrible start to the season. Raikkonen had briefly led the race, but all he could hope for was to score the team's first points of the season. What a difference a year makes. The second stint saw Trulli, Vettel and Hamilton separated by just 2 seconds. It was bad news for Jarno. He hadn't made the progress he needed on the hard tyres, and the pit stops would put his second place under threat. John Button looked relaxed as the second stops approached. With Jensen leading by 16 seconds, it was clear why. Things couldn't be much worse. Trulli held off Hamilton when they pitted together, so all eyes waited to see where Vettel would re-emerge. On the hard tyres, he got out in front of Trulli. Any hope of scoring some points was long gone for Massa. He secured 14th place with some force from Fisichella. But it gave his dad little to cheer about.
Great overtaking.
Sir Richard Branson witnessed the Brawn GP team consolidate their lead in the championship, while Vettel and Red Bull showed they had closed the gap to the front runners. Barrichello's three-stop strategy didn't work out. Hamilton's fourth was an encouraging step forward, and Alonso made his point despite being very dehydrated after his drinking pump failed. Toyota's strategy of using the hard tyres during the second stint threw away the advantage of their front row lockout.
We had a couple of different strategies to play, and we tried very hard. We are here to win, we want to win, and we tried everything. And after our calculation, and we hope to have a better race pace, but eventually we were not quick enough.
The weight of expectation was on championship leader Button as F1 returned to Europe. Vettel was still right behind Barrichello, while Trulli jumped ahead of his teammate. Brawn extended their lead, BMW Sauber slipped behind Renault, while Ferrari finally got their first points of the season. After 4 rounds, the Constructors' Championship looked quite different to 2008. Arriving back in Europe, Ferrari had their work cut out with only 3 points. So how difficult was it to integrate an updated diffuser to their existing package?
The problem for us that we had to modify the rear of the car because it's an area where we had a lot of things that we have to move. So for us was a very complicated project, and this is the first step of the modification because due to the time constraint we were not able to do what we wanted, but we will do sooner. We wanted to have more. But, I think that Bahrain was a starting point of this season. We don't have to speak of the first 3 races, but we need to look forward. And so I think that here in Spain, for sure, is a very important step in terms of what we can deliver in terms of the performance of the car. We will have an update, generally speaking, on aero side of the car. And really, we will see where we can be for the rest of the championship. I don't want to say that this is really, dead or alive race to see if we don't get there, then it's finished, because that's not the case. But for sure, it's important to see the trend of the development of the F60.
But the team were caught napping, and Raikkonen failed to make it out of Q1. They thought they'd make it through, but the huge error of judgment left Kimi 16th on the grid. Vettel was sandwiched between the 3-stopping Brauns. Massa was a much improved 4th. Kovalainen was 18th, while 14th placed Hamilton raced under a 3-race suspended ban for his conduct with the stewards in Australia. Five lights were lit, and the Spanish Grand Prix was go. The Toyotas were slow to get away. Hamilton wasn't, but he had to take to the grass to dodge Piquet. Massa moved up to 3rd, while Rubens got the jump on Vettel and his teammate. He established the lead into turn 1, but there was chaos behind as Trulli went wide off track, avoiding Rosberg. Both Sutil and Trulli ran wide and could not avoid each other. The Toro Rossos? Well, they were at the wrong place at the wrong time. Hamilton was lucky to get held up at the start. He had a good view of the mayhem and managed to avoid the shards of carbon fibre. But it left him at the back of the field. On the restart, Alonso and Webber got stuck into the battle for 5th. Fernando gave the crowd a close-up thrill, but Mark wasn't going to lie down and take it. Barrichello led, but to make a 3-stop strategy work, the message was clear. His teammate agreed.
Come on, Rubens, you can go quicker than this.
But it was a bad day for the Finnish drivers.
I've lost gears, I've lost all my gears, okay?
Okay, Heikki, box this lap, box this lap.
Yeah, okay. Something happened, I lost everything.
Kimi, stop and park the car outside. Stop, please.
Lap 31 and Barrichello headed a Brawn 1-2. The team switched Jensen to a 2-stop to avoid traffic, and even with a heavy fuel load, he was still only 13 seconds behind when Rubens made his 2nd stop. Button got his foot down and came round to take the lead. Massa went through, and so did Vettel. For a successful 3-stop strategy, the Brazilian had to be in the lead. Ferrari of 4th-placed Massa all afternoon. The team knew the situation was hopeless.
Let him go, Felipe, let him go. You've got 16 seconds to Alonso. You need to save fuel, we're a lap short. Let him go and just start saving fuel. You've got 16 seconds, you can back off. Good luck.
Fernando, Massa is 1 lap short of fuel. At the moment he's 3 seconds a lap slower than us, so we need to catch up with him, we can do him.
A tiny bit more, Felipe. Okay, gap is 8.7 seconds, we need a bit more. Back Back off another second on this lap. We still need more. Carry on using the KERS, please, mate. Carry on using the KERS. We need to keep using that.
In qualifying, Button started his pole position lap with just 2 seconds to spare. But there were many questions to be asked at Ferrari.
What's happened? I mean, what's happened on the machine?
Okay, just pull over to the side. Just pull over to the side and jump out, mate. Pull over to the side. I'll explain everything to you afterwards. Just pull over to the side and jump out.
The inquest started at Ferrari. Alonso may not have made the podium, but there were plenty of smiles in the Spanish crowd. Pleased to be back on the podium, while at least Vettel had a good look at Ferrari's new diffuser. Heidfeld celebrated his birthday with 2 points, while Hamilton just missed out and finished a lap down. F1 arrived at its most glamorous venue, but events from Spain were still high on the agenda. Barrichello felt that his teammates' switch to a two-stop strategy lost him a possible victory, and with a strong sense of déjà vu, harking back to his Ferrari days, he clarified his feelings.
We had a small conversation, and I've said, you know, I'm a guy who was brought up by my father and my mother telling me that I don't need to be to have anything more than you. As long as you give me the same thing as you, I will prove that I can do better than you. And I told Ross that if after the race, still with my animals a little bit too high, I've said, look, if something was done for Jensen at this race, I'm prepared to go back to Brazil and never come back. You're never going to see me anymore. Because that's how it should be. I mean, it should be equal terms, and he promised me that's how it's going to be. So I'm very happy with that.
He was happier than several drivers after qualifying. Massa lost it, as did Piquet and Glock. Kimi got in at his.
Damage the car.
Understood, Lewis. You just hit the left rear corner. We're just having a look on the tally. Okay, Lewis, if you can hear me, your car is completely damaged. You need to retire. Please stay with the car and remember to turn it completely off.
That left Button to take pole.
Thank you very much, guys.
Raikkonen had high hopes starting from the front row. Force India were pleased to get both cars through to Q2, considering many big names had fallen by the wayside. Hamilton qualified a lowly 16th, but a change of gearbox landed him on the back row, and Toyota just couldn't get it together. Barrichello got the jump on Kimi off the start, while Vettel had Rosberg on his case, in Monaco's least favoured position. For the first time in 2009, Ferrari looked... Massa clung on as Rosberg made light work of the Red Bull.
Keep attacking him, mate, keep attacking him. His tyres are shot.
Once the Ferrari had clean air, he left the Red Bull behind. Piquet hoped a heavy fuel load would catapult him up the order. But...
Any damage, Nelson? Any damage?
For sure damage, that's idiot.
Okay, Nelson, in now, please, in now. We've got to retire you. You've got rear wing damage.
Another race without points for the Brazilian. Sebastian was a little too late on the brakes, locked the rears, lost the car, and hit the wall. The long first stint paid off. Massa was now fourth behind Barrichello and Raikkonen. He was too fast into the swimming pool, lost the rear end, and McLaren's only chance of points was gone. One man had completely dominated the afternoon.
Monaco, baby, yeah!
Of the year. While Brawn scored their third 1-2 of the season. And Button took his fifth win of the year. It was the first time both Ferraris were in the top 8 this season. Fisichella was only 2 seconds from 8th place and Force India's first point, while Bourdais got his second of the season. And with Barrichello just 7 seconds behind, Brawn were the force to be reckoned with.
I think we've proven this weekend that our package has worked, and I think we're looking very strong for the next few races. So this victory is massive for us, I think, at this point of the season.
Located on the Asian side of the Bosphorus, the Istanbul Park is a technical challenge for the teams and drivers. Friday's practice sessions were far from smooth running for several big names. A rare mistake proved that Button wasn't completely invincible. Hamilton focused on improving the car, but ended up all in a spin. Red Bull had high hopes, but an engine failure for Vettel on Friday wasn't the best start to the weekend. Sebastian overcame his early troubles to take his second pole of the year ahead of the two Brawns, with Mark Webber fourth. A new diffuser helped Kubica to 10th ahead of his teammate, but Hamilton could only manage 16th behind Kovalainen and Sutil, while brake problems for Piquet left him a lowly 17th. Vettel won when Sebastian made a mistake. Jensen was more than ready to pounce. That didn't work either. He continued, but a rapidly deteriorating gearbox caught up with him later in the race. Late. Vettel's early second stop on lap 29 confirmed he was 3-stopping. In order for the strategy to work, he had to get ahead of Button in the second stint, but his 2-stopping teammate was already in on the action. One-stopping Hamilton was having a torrid time. He was wheel-to-wheel with Piquet in the battle for 16th. It was a rare surprise for Nelson, but a kick in the teeth for Lewis. Had slipped from his grasp as well.
Sebastian, save your car.
Bull's hopes of victory were shattered. Button proved to be too much of a speed demon to challenge.
Come on! Well done! Awesome! Jensen, that was unbelievable, unbelievable. Great job. Mix one.
Oh, what can I say? What can I say, guys? Oh, you have built me a monster of a car. You're an absolute legend. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this.
Another job well done. Red Bull might have been the runners-up, but they won the race to the podium. However, the top step belonged to one man. Trulli was pleased with fourth. Kubica got his first points of the year, but Alonso was frustrated not to score. Hamilton beat Piquet in the end, but it was his lowest place of the season so far. After 7 races, Button looked unstoppable. Not much separated Webber and Vettel, or Rosberg and Massa, while the 3 champions hadn't even made it into the top 8. Despite their first ever retirement, Brawn was still streaks ahead of Red Bull and Toyota, and they had almost 3 times the points of Ferrari and McLaren combined. With 2 top drivers, the British fans had every hope for a good home result in Silverstone, but events in qualifying threw a spanner in the works. Vettel headed Barrichello and Webber at the front of the grid. Mark felt he could have been even closer, and he didn't mince his words.
Raikkonen is sitting on a racing bike.
Yeah, we saw him, Mark. P3, Vettel P1.
Button was a disappointing 6th, while Hamilton kept Buemi company on the back row. Trulli was 4th, Nakajima was 5th thanks to a very light fuel load. Massa just missed out on the top 10, while an unlucky Sutil was forced to start from the pit lane, following a fuel pressure problem on the formation lap. Despite a tough race ahead for their homegrown heroes, the British fans were out in force on race day. Button was desperate to get heat into his tyres. The Brawns looked set to struggle in the cool Silverstone temperatures. With Charlie Whiting in position, the race was all set to go. Vettel kept Barrichello in line, while Button was held up by a struggling Trulli. The Ferraris were flying thanks to Kurz, even if they did synchronise running wide. Ross Brawn was powerless as Vettel streaked away into the distance. The gap to Barrichello was clear, then it was Webber. Button couldn't get heat into his tyres at the start and had his work cut out, chasing Massa for 8th. The Ferrari bounced along the curbs and Button said, "Thank you very much." Hamilton's special helmet hadn't brought him much luck, but a mistake from Alonso was a chance for Lewis, however short-lived. Lewis was now under attack from Kubica. Back at the front, Vettel extended his lead at a rate of a second per lap. He completely stamped his authority, pulled out a gap, and with Webber harassing the Brawn from behind, it was looking good. 20 laps in, and Webber made his first stop. McLaren didn't need a stopwatch to work out this was not their battle. Working on moving Massa up the order. A Kurz advantage at the start helped him make progress from 11th.
Currently second position. Should come out 6th, 5th or 6th.
The strategy worked, and he was 5th. And it was an opportunity too good to miss for his former teammate. The glory days of having 2 winning drivers were a distant memory for McLaren. No one could question Hamilton's commitment. even if others couldn't believe it. Alan Webber didn't leave anything to chance. He kept his fingers crossed for a Red Bull 1-2. Vettel was far more confident, and rightly so. Nobody came close to challenging his domination of Silverstone.
We've won the British Grand Prix. Thank you very much, everyone.
He stomped all over the opposition and finished 15 seconds ahead of his teammate, and it all got a bit much for some.
Thank you very much, guys. Wonderful car, wonderful car. Perfect. Thank you. I would say, ding, 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 ba.
Vettel's singing wasn't up to much, but Red Bull were in a class of their own. Massa was very pleased with 4th, Rosberg was 5th, and Button 6th, but Nakajima was unable to maintain his grid spot. The championship battle had heated up in the cool conditions of Silverstone. A win at the historic circuit was a special moment.
This circuit, I mean, is fantastic. And you go down to turn 1, it's nearly flat, just a little lift. And then down to Beckett and Chapel. And then the complex in the end, which is a bit slower. Rounds it up, is extremely bumpy, difficult to always get it right. And you have to use brakes as well as entry speed, and then maintaining the speed. Still, you have some straight lines following. So it's quite tricky, technically demanding, and also you need balls around here. So I think that makes it one of the particular circuits.